Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over potential tropical storm Marco and tropical storm Laura, which has already formed east of the Lesser Antilles. It's about to make its way north of the Caribbean, and then it could potentially become a hurricane some point west of Florida. We're going to be going over some model guidance as well as my personal forecast in terms of the intensity of this storm and where I think the storm is going to go. We're also going to touch on tropical depression 14 or potential tropical storm Marco here in just one moment. I also have my cone forecast for that storm and my intensity forecast for that storm as well. Now, before we do get into it, I just need to tell you guys that I will be taking a short little break from uploading about the current weather. I have a couple of longer range forecasts scheduled between the 23rd and the 26th, so you guys are going to get 4 longer range uploads between that time period, and that's going to be the time period when both of these storms are going to be landfalling. So I won't be able to make any uploads on those two storms while they're landfalling, but I will have some longer range forecasts that I hope you guys can enjoy. That'll be out on my channel throughout the next couple of days, starting on the 23rd, and then I'll go back to my daily uploads about the current weather. Now, let's get right into it here with your current National Weather Service page. Flood watches in effect for parts of Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia there. Heat advisories for southwestern Texas. Excessive heat warnings for parts of Arizona there. We also have some excessive heat watches in effect and warnings in effect for parts of southern Nevada, southern California, southern Utah, and northern Arizona. And then we have just some scattered dense fog advisories and air quality alerts all scattered throughout the western United States. Now, here is the current National Hurricane Center 5-day graphical outlook from the National Hurricane Center. They upgraded tropical what was Tropical Depression 13 to Tropical Storm Laura right around 9:30 this morning or so Eastern time. So now they've recently put up the latest 11 a.m. Advisory, and that's the information I'm going to be giving to you guys. If you're watching this after about 2 p.m. or so when they release their newest advisory, I would recommend you go to hurricanes.gov or the National Hurricane Center's website and go find that information on the website so that it's the latest and most up-to-date information. Now, we have Tropical Depression 14, potential Tropical Storm Marco right there, and we have Tropical Storm Laura off to the east of the Lesser Antilles. We also have Disturbance 1 that's just off the coast of Africa, which currently has a 40% chance of developing. Now, here is the Eastern Pacific. Currently, we have 2 disturbances that are outlined. We also have Tropical Storm Genevieve, which at its peak had Category 4 wind speeds. Currently, we have Disturbance 1, which has a 60% chance of developing, and then we have Disturbance 2, which has a 30% chance of developing in that yellow shaded region. And then here is the Central Pacific. We have Disturbance 1, which has a near 0% chance of developing, and then we have Disturbance 2, which is in a very oddly shaped kind of a circled in area there, which has a 20% chance of developing within the next 5 days. Now, here is current tropical storm Laura and how it looks on the infrared satellite imagery, and this is showing you how high those cloud tops are rising and how cold those cloud tops are. And the colder they are, the more intense and vibrant the colors, the more intense and stronger the thunderstorms in that storm are, and therefore the stronger the storm is. Right now, we don't see too many high cloud tops, so it's not a very, very strong storm, but we do have tropical storm winds. And with the track that we've recently been seeing, yesterday we had a much further to the north track. Now, like I said yesterday in my video yesterday, I said we could potentially see this move south again with the model guidance, and that actually ended up happening, and now it's skimming the northern coast, or forecasted to skim the northern coast of all the Caribbean islands. Currently, is located at 17 degrees north by 60.2 degrees west. Maximum sustained winds of about 45 miles per hour, moving west at about 18 miles per hour or so. Now, here's the track forecast, and again, if you look at where they have each individual icon, you can kind of dot them together, and it kind of follows just to the north of all the Caribbean islands. So it's still not going to be in a perfect environment, but It could, if it moves further to the south, that would really be the best case scenario. Even though it would still be impacting the Caribbean islands, it would be much weaker, and it would have weakened a lot just because it's over land and not over warm waters. If it were to move to the northernmost track or potential track in this cone and move kind of like that, that would kind of be the sweet spot where it would most likely become a hurricane sometime Sunday night into Monday morning, a little bit earlier than what is forecasted. And if we stay right in the middle here, it's going to be kind of in between. Half of the storm is still going to be over land, so the western half of the storm and the southern half is still going to be weakening, while the northern and eastern end is most likely going to be strengthening. Now, here is the key messages for this tropical storm. You can pause the video right here and read them if you are interested. Now, here is the most likely arrival time of tropical storm winds as well as the probability. We have about a 40 to 50% chance of seeing those tropical storm wind speeds all throughout the Caribbean and throughout the Bahamas, and also for the northeastern Gulf of Mexico. Now, here is the 58-mile-per-hour wind speed probabilities. We have about a 20% chance of that occurring, and then here's the chances of seeing hurricane force wind speeds. We have about a 5 to 10% chance of that occurring. Now, here's your model track guidance for the storm, and most of these models have a general consensus that it's going to move just north or just skimming the northern coast of the Caribbean islands over the next couple of days. Now, here is the model intensity guidance for the storm, and right now, again, it is at tropical storm status, but it is expected to stay as a tropical storm, maybe even upgrade into a Category 1 hurricane sometime within the next 3 to 5 days, and then weaken again as it starts to impact parts of the United States, and weaken back into a tropical storm, maybe even a tropical depression. Now, here is the current tropical depression 14 and what it looks like on infrared satellite. Right now, it is very broken up, mainly because the western edge of the storm is over land currently, and it will be moving northward into the Yucatan Peninsula, so it's not going to have a lot of time to develop. The National Hurricane Center keeps this as a tropical, forms this into a tropical storm, and then keeps it and turns it into a hurricane after it passes over the Yucatan Peninsula. Now, it's currently located at 16.6 degrees north by about 84.1 degrees west. Maximum sustained winds of 35 miles per hour, which is 4 miles per hour underneath tropical storm force, and moving northwest at about 14 miles per hour. We also need to wait for a closed circulation on the storm to really have a very good tropical storm forming. Now, here is the current National Hurricane Center cone of uncertainty, and then I'll show you mine in just one moment. Staying as a tropical storm all the way until it hits the central Gulf of Mexico. That's when it forms into a hurricane for a brief moment, and then as it's starting to move closer to Texas and Louisiana, that's when it turns back into a tropical storm, and even on land, it's still a tropical storm. Now, here's the key messages for Tropical Depression 14, potential tropical storm Marco, and you can pause the video here and read them if you are interested. Now, here's some of the recon, the aircraft recon that we did get, because they did send a plane, I believe, from southern Louisiana into the storm, and this is Tropical Depression 14, or Tropical Depression 14. On the northeastern side, they did find some tropical storm winds, so that is something that that's most likely what they're looking at to see if they will upgrade this, but it was really along and around the circulation. You see, we have very, very weak flight level winds, so that's why I think maybe we have to wait a little bit longer to see this form into a tropical storm. Now, here's your most likely arrival time of tropical storm winds and the probability that they will occur, and we have about a 50 to 60% chance of that occurring, and over parts of Texas and Louisiana, about a 30 to 40% chance of tropical storm winds occurring. If you're wondering when this is really going to impact parts of Louisiana and Texas, it's going to be right around Monday night, and that's the same time period that tropical storm Laura is going to be impacting parts of Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida there. So that's one of the things that we haven't seen in quite a few years, where we have two landfalling hurricanes, both in the Gulf of Mexico, both impacting states adjacent to them over the next over the same time period. So pretty much all of the Gulf states, from Texas to Florida, are going to be dealing with some sort of tropical activity, both most likely in the form of tropical storms or maybe even hurricanes at the same time. So if you live anywhere along this Gulf Coast region, make sure that you are staying tuned for more updates, because because this entire Gulf Coast region, depending on, it doesn't even matter if you're gonna be impacted by Tropical Depression 14 or Tropical Storm Laura, you're still gonna see fairly similar impacts out of this, and it's definitely interesting to see how close and how similar these storms are. Now, here's your hurricane force wind speed probability, and we do have about a 5 to 10% chance of that occurring, so a decent chance throughout the central Gulf of Mexico. Now, here's your chance of seeing 58-mile-per-hour wind speeds, and we have about a 20 to 30% chance, 30 to 40% chance of that occurring, especially over the Yucatan Peninsula. Now, here's your model track guidance, and most of these head the storm straight northeasterly or northwesterly into Texas and Louisiana. Now, here's your model intensity guidance. Most of these models actually have this turning into a tropical storm within the next 12 to about 36 hours or so. Now, here is my personal forecast for Tropical Storm Laura, and then we'll look at Tropical Depression 14. Right now, again, northeast of the Lesser Antilles, and it's going to be moving westward until it hits about the western fringe of the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and then that's when I think it's really going to start moving northwestward into Cuba, and then moving into Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, and then potentially, if it moves far to the west, that's when I think maybe you could see some impacts in Louisiana. Now, here is my intensity guidance, and I am expecting this to stay as a tropical storm for most of its lifespan, and potentially become a weak Category 1 hurricane before dipping back down into a tropical storm. I put it borderline because it is very, very, very close on whether we'll see a Category 1 hurricane or not. Right now, I'm leaning towards most likely a high-end tropical storm, but I would not be surprised if we do get a hurricane out of this. Now, here is Tropical Depression 14. Currently southeast of the Yucatan Peninsula, and it's going to be moving pretty much straight northwest somewhere over eastern Texas and over much of the state of Louisiana is really where we're eyeing for the storm to really move through. Now, here's my intensity guidance, and I am expecting this to become tropical storm very shortly, and then stay as a high tropical storm, maybe even a hurricane. Earlier on their past advisories, they brought this to a hurricane before it impacted the Yucatan Peninsula within the next 48 hours. And then I think it'll re-strengthen until it hits parts of Texas and Louisiana, where I think it'll dip down in intensity just a little bit. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.